listen up, y'all. It's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complication.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about all things technology and why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today is going to be super exciting because we have Mr. Nat Berman, who I consider to be one of the goats of LinkedIn networking, engagement, business coaching, all fun things. At least I find them fun, and I know you do. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell everybody all about your background, because it's very near and dear to my heart, because digital real estate is so freaking cool because I'm such a nerd. I know that's not your main gig anymore. And then we're going to jump in and talk about one of my favorite new topics, which is Brand Built, this community that he and co-owner Darren have created. And Darren was on, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4, I don't know. So this will be a nice roundup to that conversation as well. So take it away. Tell everybody where you're tuning in from, where your t-shirts come from, because that's the only thing anybody ever cares about.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I guess my story is pretty, I don't know what it is, if it's straightforward or not, but, so I started off in recruiting, New York City for the financial sector. So I did a lot of searches for Goldman Sachs and UBS and, never liked it. Never liked my job. That was a corporate thing and it was not particularly for me. I just never
jump in and stop you for 1 second, because as you guys watch and listen to Nat talk through this conversation, you just don't seem like the stereotypical like financial recruiting guy. Like, I can't see you showing up in a suit and tie, like just like being like, "Hey, I'm Nat. Let's have a chat." Like, I cannot picture it now, because all I've ever known are the t-shirts and the coach Nat Berman, and anyway.
Well,
So,
luckily I didn't have to wear a suit too often. There were some times, but it was definitely like work attire.
Yeah.
The dress shirt and the slacks. It wasn't that wasn't my thing, and my commute sucked. But yeah, so just out of the blue, one of my friends emailed me in 2007. So I had been in recruiting since 2001, and then so he emailed me this website called Blogspot, which kind of dates me a little bit, but it was Google's blogging platform. I didn't know what a blog was. I didn't know anything. But I had always, I had always liked writing since I was little, and this really dates me. So my first website was technically 2002. I created something on Yahoo GeoCities, and I had the domain name everyonegetslaid.com. And so, of course I did. And so that was from the movie PCU, which was a great movie. And that was the name of the band in PCU. So I was like, maybe I could buy that website.
I was going to say, please tell me you still own that domain name.
No, I don't own it.
Oh, come on. Why would you let that one go? You could have sold that to, industries that we don't even talk about right now, and probably made $1 bazillion.
Yeah, I should search it right now. So serendipitously, 5 years later, a friend of mine sends me this thing, Blogspot, and I just started writing, just like blogging, just whatever was in my head at the time. But then I started to see like all these websites out there and what they were doing, and there were ads on them and all that kind of stuff. So I came up with this idea to do a sort of men lifestyle site. A lot of those were popping up at the time, like Barstool, which was, I came up like literally right before Dave Portnoy opened that site. Like, I started uncoached.com, and that was the name of the website. And it was all like humor and sports, entertainment, comedy, all that kind of stuff. And it grew very quickly. And I learned how to monetize. I learned how to, build on WordPress. I use themes. I don't know anything about coding, but I use themes and I learned everything. And once I got a link from Sports Illustrated, things really took off. And then,
Yeah.
so about 9 months in, at that point, it was 2008. I quit my job, and it was like the summer of '08. And it was just interesting timing because the financial crisis was hitting. I was in financial recruiting. Even my bosses at the time were like, it's going to be a rough year. Like, like come to the
Right.
office, do whatever you want, but it ain't going to be easy.
Do
I was like,
whatever you
okay.
want.
And they were really cool. So like I was basically working on the websites all day, even at my job.
Yeah.
And once I think it was the first time I made like $2,000 in a month, I was like, all right, I got to give it a shot. I had money set aside, and I
Yeah.
was living in Manhattan, and I was living with my then girlfriend, now wife. And I was just like, what the hell? And never looked back. And basically over the course of, you know, almost 17 years, uh, I grew this portfolio. I had a partner for a while, for about 10 years. And then it was in 2000, I think 16 or 17, we split up. I bought him out, uh, took over all the websites, and I still own them to this day, except for one. I sold my biggest one in the summer of 2022. I was pretty lucky because that's when SEO started taking a crap, and I sold it to a very big entity, and
Yeah.
I don't know how it's doing today, but it's definitely not
You
getting the kind of
know?
traffic that I was getting back then. Um, so it was 2019 was when I got on LinkedIn in terms of seriously, right?
Yeah.
I was just searching around. I honestly do not remember how the hell I was on the platform or found it or
Me
whatever. Like
either. Because
I
I
don't
didn't
remember.
use it.
I'm pretty sure I've been on it since like 2004.
Yeah.
But as a creator, I must have seen an article. Somebody must have told me like, are you, whatever. And I was like, maybe I could do that. Right. Like who knows? And, um, I just started creating content. I started making videos in my backyard just of myself talking, shooting the shit, talking about being an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. And I learned how to grow. I hired a coach to help me on LinkedIn to learn the system or whatever, which is very different then than it is today. Um, Same time period. It was like a 9 month growth period. I went
Yep.
ballistic, and I don't know. I was up over 20,000 followers at the time, and that's when I started to get a lot of inbound. It was interesting. People were like, "Do you do coaching? Do you do this?" And I had never
Yeah.
thought of
Can you
coaching
teach me?
before.
Teach me how to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't even teaching LinkedIn growth. They were asking about the stuff I was talking about, being an entrepreneur, growing a business.
Right.
So that was my first coaching thing. And then it got real busy real fast, and I burned out. And so I took like almost like a 2 year hiatus, so to speak. I just put all my attention on the websites. Um, and came back in 2023, not too many months after I sold my website. So I was like, I gotta do something interesting. So I was like, all right, I'll go back on LinkedIn. And I went back on LinkedIn doing the exact same thing that I had done initially, which was posting 2 videos a day or a video and a text
Right.
post a day. And I was getting destroyed, like no engagement, nothing. And I was like,
Nobody
what the hell's
cared.
going on? And I reached out to some of my old people that I knew, and, you know, 75% of them were salty, right? They were pissed off at the platform because they had all these followers and they just weren't getting the same magic that they
Yeah.
used to. But there was this other contingent of people who decided to evolve. One of those people you
Mhm.
know very well, Luke Matthews, right? And so,
Oh, good old Luke. He
so
was
my story with Luke
giving away
Matthews is actually
pizzas.
interesting because technically he told me this. I didn't know if it was true. I was like one of the very first people to comment on one of his very first posts or something like that.
Yep.
He like I don't remember it, but obviously I believe him. And we always just had a interesting um we're extremely different people, but the one thing we're very similar at
Yeah.
is not necessarily giving a shit about what we say or what people are going to respond to. We disagree on plenty of things and we're very different people, but we've always respected each other's honesty and just going for it, right?
I
Just
think
letting her rip.
the
And
best
so,
part is about you. I just want to jump for a quick second because the best part about you and Luke, and I'm going to say this because again, I've worked with Luke. I work with Nat. I work with both of them on a regular basis, and they are very different people, but what's great about both of them and the reason that their shit works is because they're they rip off the band-aid, they tell you how it is, they tell you the truth, it's 100% transparency. Whether you like what they're going to say or not, they're going to tell it to you. And they're coming at it from a couple of different angles, but that's the same across the board. And that's why I truly believe that's ultimately why both of you are where you are on LinkedIn, because of that. Now, it's totally different in some of the ways that you teach it, but you still are just no bullshit attitude. Like, because that
Yeah.
doesn't help anybody get anywhere. And so
Real.
that's what's amazing about both of you, and something very similar in your styles. And the humor. I mean, you guys are just funny. I mean, it's funny to interact with you. Like, you're no bullshit, but then you back it up with a little bit of humor to kind of lighten it. Like, here I was just telling you how it is, but here's a funny thing, you know?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And I think I appreciate that. And I think another common thread that he and I have is just a maniacal work ethic when we really need to. We don't
Hmm.
mess around. Like, it's like, do the
Yep.
work, put in the time, do what needs to be done, and don't complain about it. And so, he was the one that kind of set me straight, really, in 2023, when he's like, sorry, dude, you're gonna have to engage more than everybody. You're gonna have to do this more than everybody. Like, da, da, da. Like, he gave me the real kind of scoop, which is like, effectively, you're gonna have to be on here a lot more than you are, and you're gonna have to try a lot harder.
Yep.
He knew I was a
And it
smart guy
sucks.
and kind
You
of
just have to
knew
do
what
it.
to. Yeah, he knew I was a pretty smart guy and knew what to do, but it was more like, are you willing to do it, right? And so it was really like January through July of 2023 was a very slow grind. Like, not, it wasn't this, it was like
Yeah.
this. And
Yes.
then it took off. When it really took off was July of 2023, when I did a rebrand and I started doing carousels. I was like, all right, fine. I'll do something that I know is working on the platform
That I absolutely hate, but it's gonna
that I
work.
do not want to do. Yeah, I didn't want to do it. And I got off carousels quick. Like, I put out like 50 of them, grew pretty quickly, and I was like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. I got to go back to doing what I like to do. And
Yep.
it's funny. What I like to do was video, but that wasn't working at all at that time. And so I was like, all right, everybody likes my shirts. They like when I was doing all my videos in the snow. Like, maybe I can,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just get more shirts and just like, that'll be my thing. And I do love t-shirts, and I do love like pop culture and 80s and 90s and even some 70s stuff, even though I was born in 79. But
Yeah.
so it just started working. And I just, I engage like crazy. But I didn't do anything particularly different or outstanding than anyone else. I just
You did
was
it
always
more.
there. I was just always there.
Yep.
And I made it a point to be on the platform as much, if not more, than pretty much anyone. And so it grew quickly. And then that whole year was an intentional year. I was coaching one-to-one. And
Hmm.
I never really liked doing one-to-one coaching. I still don't love it. But this time around, I had a purpose. I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know that I'm collecting data. So maybe I'll do a course. And that was my initial thought with all of this, was like, maybe I'll do a course on everything that I've been teaching and learning myself, from clients. But as the year progressed, more and more clients were asking about LinkedIn. How do you do this? How do you do that? So it went from business coaching and life coaching to also a little bit more LinkedIn centric coaching as well. And then that's when it sort of hit, and I had a different offer. Excuse me. I had a different offering, and I called it business and branding. And that was probably what I would call an early iteration of the community. It was just, I was doing it by myself. Then comes Darren, right? Then comes Darren Mass comes along
You want to go
and
hike?
says, do you want to go on a hike? And he always talks about it because he's salty about it, because I ignored him at first, and it wasn't on purpose. But as soon as And he was smart. He booked an appointment with me out, and that forced me to basically look at his profile because I was like, hey, I don't know who this person is. I have to, they always share their profiles in my Calendly. Then I looked at his profile. I was like, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to talk to this guy. $40 million exit. Yeah, I'm going to talk to this guy. And so we went on the hike, hit it off. And at the end, we were both like, I don't know, maybe we should do something. It was just nothing major. It was just like, maybe we should do something. And I think we talked like not even a week later. And our initial idea was to have this like coaching platform. It was this thing where it was like almost like a coaching a la carte service where, and this isn't new, but it like, you ever hear of Doxy.me? Doxy? It's a platform where pretty much all therapists like now do Zoom calls, but it's their own it's called Doxy.me. Doctors, it's all like telehealth.
Right.
And I was like, we should do a Doxy.me
platform.
Yeah, I was like, we should do a Doxy.me, but for coaching, right? And we get all these coaches to sign up on the platform. They pay us a monthly fee, blah, 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 blah. But then that morphed into another idea, which was like, hey, if somebody has an HR problem, they could come to our website and get an hour from one of our coaches who specializes in HR. And then we realized just how big a freaking thing this was to do. It was a massive, massive thing. And we couldn't get any tech people who would do equity. And it would have been like a couple $100,000. I guess for Darren, that's chump change. But for me, I didn't want to do $200,000. I hope he heard that. No. But seriously, but in all seriousness, we were both like, I'm not spending that kind of money right now. We were just like, there's no reason to.
Right.
So we kind of like sat on it, and I wasn't fully sold with this idea. He kind of was. He's a very positive guy, energetic, and he's like, let's go, which I like. But I was like, I'm not. He's like, it'll work out. That's how Darren is. He's always like, nature, it'll find a way.
It's his favorite line. It'll work itself out.
Yeah, he's very positive. Extremely positive. Like even today he was sending me texts that are just like, we're hitting a tipping point. I'm like, stop saying that. I don't like, I just want it to happen. Don't, I'm not even jinxing, just like, I'll believe it when it's there,
until it happens. After it happens. Yeah.
And so like, that's how I feel when we get members. He's always like, I got a verbal today. I'm like, I don't care. Like a verbal, like just get the person, like, let's get a member. I don't need a verbal. I want to see the person's in. So anyway, but so then we just kind of like didn't, we went our own separate ways, but staying in touch, whatever. And then I had this call with somebody who was telling me I should start a community. I was like, I don't want to do a community because at that time, our mutual friend Luke was someone who actually told me not to do one. He's like, it was a pain in the ass. I didn't like it, and I can understand where he's coming from.
Yeah,
like a community ain't for Luke. It's just not. And he recognized that very quickly. And I remember him telling me about it. But what was interesting is the person that I talked to about community, he's like, don't do it alone. I was like, interesting. Yeah. So that's when I contacted, it wasn't even Darren. It was Ryan Musselman was the first.
Really?
Was the first, yeah.
Was that right after? That must have been right after because he had his little like community. Because I was one of his beta.
And I didn't know. I didn't know. And so Musselman, as you know, he's very analytical and very serious when it comes to any kind of opportunity, right?
Yes.
So me and Darren are go guys. Like we're just like, let's start yesterday. I don't care how to run it. I just want to start it, right? Like that's how Darren. Musselman's not like that at all. And in my head, I was like, he was looking out for himself and his business, and it was completely appropriate. And I was like, I totally understand. And at that point, I was like, Darren, you want to, start a community or whatever. And it wasn't like it had nothing to do with like him being a second choice or anything. It was just that I was already in communication with Ryan at the time. Yeah. And he was interested. It's just, he wasn't like willing to just go. Right. So Darren's like, let's go. Like, he's like, let's do a community. This is what we were talking about. Like, it was like,
my pool.
I was like, did you ever hear of school? And he's like, no, I never heard of school. He didn't know what school was. He saw it and he was like, oh, this is great. Like, let's go. We started it that day. $99 a month. I didn't have a course, nothing. Like we just started it.
Oh yeah.
He was actually the one who got most of our initial members in. It was a lot of
I
his
was
network.
I was number, what was I, like 58, I think.
Oh, I have no
I don't know.
idea.
It might have been even.
Surprised you knew that.
It might have even been lower than that. Maybe it was 48, whatever. So
So
it was
So the first
hilarious.
couple of weeks were like I was basically scrambling to do the course, and I initially thought like that's how this community is that's going to be the draw, right? I thought
Yeah,
the draw was going to be the course, and so you've been with us for a real long time, so you know like
yeah.
the course is not the draw, not anymore.
Nope,
It's not,
not at all.
and it's definitely the calls and that aha moment. We were at like 75 members, maybe a little more, and you probably remember this when I put out that poll, and I was like, who doesn't want to do these lectures anymore? Because we were doing those guest calls once a
Yep,
week. They started to get real boring, and I could tell people were like looking off to the side and doing whatever work they were doing, and we just knew.
yep,
And who the hell needs 20 lectures on LinkedIn? Like it was getting a little
yeah.
repetitive.
It
And it
was
was
like
those
to me that
Wednesday
they were
calls.
repetitive. It's not that they weren't good, and I'll just jump
No,
in
they were
because
great.
as a member, they were great, and it was awesome to hear like Jasmine and all those people talk. Awesome, right? Totally awesome. But it was very repetitive, and it was kind of one of those things. It was the moment of, you don't need at the level of people that are in this community. Like I was showing up because I wanted to make this community work for me, right? Like this is,
Yeah.
back then I was like, no, I'm committed to this. I want to make it work. I'm going to show up. But it was one of those things where it's like, oh man, I don't need another
Yeah.
meeting of somebody speaking at me. We needed the meetings where it was interactive like this, where we're
Yeah.
having conversations as a group. And these conversations, I mean, are amazing.
Yeah.
Conversations that
And
happen inside this community are just unreal.
well, to Darren's credit, he was the one that was like, let's do this community chat thing.
Yeah.
And that's when the light bulb went off, because it was literally 3 weeks in a row where we would text each other after the talk and be like, dude, that was awesome. And I was like,
Mhm.
I feel the same way. And I couldn't stand the Tuesday talks because those
Yeah.
were like the lectures. And finally I said to Darren, I was like, I think we should get rid of these Tuesday calls. I don't like them,
Yeah.
or at least why don't we have them be more
Change
like
up.
the Wednesday calls? So then I did that poll. It was 87% in favor of not doing the lecture
Yep.
stuff anymore. And so we were like, okay, great. Then we had our little like weird time at like 100 members when we had a couple of rebels in there who were trying to take some people
Yeah.
away from us and that kind of stuff. And
I
that was
felt
weird,
so
but
bad reaching out and saying, "Hey, this is happening," but it was like one of those things. Like it had to happen. Like I was one of the people that reached out and said it because I was like, "Stop it! Like you guys are just being jerks. Like don't do that." Like, just
well,
don't.
it was just, it is what it is. And then, but what ended up happening was it was almost a blessing in disguise, because Darren and I were kind of thinking like, you know what? They're just taking out the trash.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
like, if
unfortunately, that's
people
what
want
it
to
was. Yeah.
leave and do something else, that's their right.
Yeah.
And ultimately it probably means that it's that our group isn't right for them, and that's fine.
So so hang on before you keep going. Let's back up because what we didn't do is let's tell people about the community. So just the community, we're talking about the community and all the amazing things, but let's actually give them the context of what it is and
Sure.
what you two started, because it's so unlike the other communities that are out there. And you and Darren both know this, so I can say it. Like I'm part of Dave Gerhardt's community, Exit 5, totally different. Exit 5 is awesome for what it is, but this is so unlike any other community I've ever joined. And I've been doing this, I'm the same age as Nat. I've been doing this a long time. I've joined ridiculous amounts of communities, and they all end up, like, I don't know, like fizzling out after a while.
Fading. They
Yeah,
all
it's just
fade.
not like you're not getting out what you're putting in, and that is so not what this is. And the community is brand built. I'm gonna have Nat give you the elevator pitch and the 50,000 foot view, but the community is brand built, business coaching, networking, LinkedIn, personal branding, all of this. I mean, it's but it's so much more than that. The networking is undeniable.
Yep. So yeah, it's funny because ChatGPT came up with a great tagline the other day for us, and it was
Did they?
yeah,
Do share.
elevating professionals, building brands. Love that.
Woo!
It's pretty good, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I take zero credit. It was all ChatGPT.
So
So
we're gonna put that on the landing page and do some
yeah,
A/B testing. Shoot it my
what
way.
what it evolved into, basically, and the moment that hit us was when we did the price hike. Right, we
Yeah.
wanted to sort of not as I wouldn't say it was riffraff, but it just the $100 price point was just not the right
Yeah.
people.
No,
And
I
so
agree.
that opened up this whole different mentality, and the idea to give more value when we raised the prices was where we said, you know what, why don't we just meet like a lot more than any other community? And so that's when we decided 4 meetings a week, an hour each, all coaching, all business coaching, LinkedIn coaching. Hell, it's really a support group at the same time as well. And so that's what I've been telling people now. So the initial draw was education, right? It was like, okay, there's this kick-ass course. It's 12 weeks. It's all about LinkedIn. You can learn about productivity. You can see all this cool stuff we have in our classroom. But now the draw is really those meetings because they're recorded,
Yep.
and so many good questions come up, and everybody's involved. Everybody's a coach, so to speak, on these calls. And that's really like, I wish I could say there was this some fancy, here's what we do. Like
Yeah.
it's
There's
like
not. I
what
mean,
we
it's
do
so
is
much.
we help people build their brands and businesses, period. Like that's what we do. And but yes, there's a common thread of LinkedIn on there and how to leverage that platform to do that. But at the same time, it's not just about that, because Darren and I come from business coaching school, right? Like we literally were helping people grow their businesses. It had nothing to do with LinkedIn. So that's why we offer that as well. So
And you're
it
gonna be
works
there.
for,
You're gonna be there. If LinkedIn were to grow, like blow up tomorrow, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm gonna wake up and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump on to school, not LinkedIn, which is what happens now. I'm gonna jump
yeah,
into school and talk with you guys because it's not. Yeah, it's like you just said. Like LinkedIn is a huge part of this community. It's a huge part of this community, and it's a fantastic part of the community because we're all there and we're all putting the hours in. But it's so much more than that. You're learning. I mean, we talk about email, we talk about communities, we talk about Oliver talks about. Um, I mean, Oliver's just crazy, crazy awesome, but like crazy. We talk about so many things about business, like top line revenue. Darren talks about managing large team. We talk about tech systems and CRM. I mean, it's just ridiculously insane the amount of information that you get from people and the amount of information or the amount of like aha moments even that you and Darren have. Darren slacked me, sent me a message after this last meeting and was like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but so and so said this, go check this out, and it's something he wants me to go look into. Like it's stuff like that. It's everybody's having those like aha moments because these conversations turn into these in-depth conversations
yeah.
which are
And
super valuable.
something interesting that you mentioned was, and Darren and I had this discussion. It's way more bigger picture, and we have no idea where it'll go. But you mentioned if LinkedIn shit the bed tomorrow, like where would you go? And for us, it's very, very hard. When you have a billion users, like obviously you can't police
Right? You're not just gonna blow up,
all
but
of the crap that's on there, just like TikTok and Facebook. Like you can't
uh,
police spam too well or whatever. But even we were thinking like, wow, what if it was like a mini LinkedIn? Some sort of interesting community place where people can come, chat, talk, learn about business, life, whatever. I just don't know what that looks like, and I don't know how many. Like, because one thing I've been very serious about, and I think Darren is as well, is as best as we can. I know it can't last forever, but
yeah,
maintaining the quality of the members, right? It's very,
exactly.
very hard to do. But I don't know, like, what's the ceiling? Can you have 10,000 awesome members? Can you have 20, 30, 100? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
I'll tell you what
But
I think. I'll tell you what I think because I mean I know we've had bits of these conversations before, but I think you can. But you're doing it the right way, right? Like you started out at 100, now it's at 195. I think that
202. Don't say that. It's at 202.
202. Um,
Sorry.
no. Price point. I'm talking about price point.
Oh, price point. Okay,
Wait,
okay. Yeah.
202? No, it's not. Anyway,
Members, 202
um,
members. We broke 200 this
what?
week.
Why
Yeah,
would
yeah.
you charge somebody $202? But that's actually funny. You should do that. No, I'm kidding. I think that you're doing it the right way. You're doing it the smart way. I think that if you always have it set at a certain price point where it's, and it, you know what? Forget it. Now I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid. It's not that we don't want to help out the little people, but there's a certain caliber of person that has to be able to afford this community. Sorry, there, I said it, right? Like that's just what it is. You're at a certain level in your career, you're ready to invest the time and the money. The money, I'm sorry, money is a thing. You have to be ready to invest the money to push to the next level. And that's what this community is doing. And I think that by setting that precedence now, and then you just continue to raise that bar, and that's the price point and the expectation of the people coming in, I think that you're always going to be able to find that level of people because you're already looking at it, right? And you're already thinking about it. So I don't think that for you and Darren's going to be a problem. Like I
Yeah,
just
and I think
really don't feel that way.
something that could potentially naturally bloom out of it. And so we've looked at tons of community models, obviously, but I feel like the ones we're probably most similar to, even though we don't teach the same things and we're not similar in that regard, but I always look at two. I look at Hampton and I look at Tiger 21. They're very, very different.
Yep.
Tiger 21 has like 1,450 members, but they charge
Yep.
$30,000 a year. Okay, so
Yep.
that's like super exclusive, high level, blah, blah, blah. But
It's like
Hampton,
premium, but the stuff that you hear people when you hear people talk about that though, I mean, they're getting like that's what I feel this community is right now. No, obviously we're not at that level yet, but
yeah.
that's where we're going because that is
But
a level of respect. That's the level of coaching you guys are giving.
yeah, and that's so our whole intention in the beginning was to effectively over deliver as much as we possibly could.
Mhm.
And so what we're seeing with like, or even, what is it? YPO, is that what it's called? Whatever, Y.
Yeah, I think so. The Young Professional League or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it's YPO. That's been around for forever.
Yeah.
And then there's like BNI and all that, but that's completely different. But I found that we were kind of similar to Hampton in the sense that they had sort of requirements for their members. And their price point's somewhat similar, a little bit higher than ours. I think they're like $4,000 a year or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My initial thought is like, I don't really see a reason to go to that price point, but maybe I don't know. But like, if anything, I'd want to do a few thousand members and then maybe have an exclusive group of 50 people, right?
Yeah.
Where it does have a feel of a Tiger 21 and it's like,
Yeah.
you do that. But I just I don't want to, in the one sense, I don't want to be exclusionary. In the other sense, like you said, money talks, man. And when you're at, I don't know why this is. It's just true. I did it long enough to know. It's weird. You get a couple things with $99 a month. You get some people who legit can't afford it, right? It legitimately cannot afford $99, and it's a huge commitment, and I get it, and I understand, and I'm sorry, right? Like that sucks. But then there's the I want the moon and the stars from you $99 people who are like, I'm spending $99. I should be getting da-da-da-da-da. And it's like,
Yeah, I should get a Mercedes and a babysitter for my kids. And could you walk my dog while you're
yeah,
at it?
it's a little nuts. I had a conversation with someone who recently left our group, and it was very similar to that kind of a thing. And I was trying to be nice and saying, hey, if you want more time, here's an option, and da-da-da. But
I
I
want to
think
talk about that for a second because I'm gonna throw some stones at some glass houses. I'm not gonna mention any names, but I'm just gonna throw stuff out there because You know what? Just F you, Facebook, seriously, because all of the coaches that are out there that are doing this, that are like, give everything away for free for $99. Like, I'm going to get you 800 leads a month. And I'm like, all of this, you guys cannot believe all this crap. And if you're believing it, then you should go work with them because they're going to take your $99 and they're going to give you crap back and you're going to come to us later anyway. So go for it. You go do what you got to do. Because seriously, that's the stuff, but that's what's out there right now. And that's the stuff that you're competing against, which there's no competition. So if you're actually looking for genuine value, Darren and Nat are not going to tell you, like, they're not going to guarantee you anything other than the fact that they're going to give you advice that actually works. They're going to tell you how it is. You have to put in the work. The problem with so many other coaching communities out there that I've found, like, they promise you all this crap, but they don't actually deliver. They're not actually, I mean, people jump in automatically assuming that they're going to get all of this stuff for free, and then they don't get anything. And as most of the time, it's because, oh, you mean I have to actually work? I can't hit the big red staple easy button and have you do it for me for $99 a month? Like, what? No, you can't. I'm not going to do it for you for $99 a month. Anyway, sorry, that's my soapbox.
No, that's okay.
You just drive me crazy. And all these coaches that are out there that are promising everything, they drive me nuts. If it's too
yeah,
good to
and
be true, it's too good to be true. Like, come on, use your brain. You're not that stupid. Pay attention.
yeah, and one of the things that we also this was one of those another awakening moments, or just a really it was a positive thing that came out of the whole. All right, we got to raise our rates and this and that and the other. Is that we started to realize, like, if they don't see the value, that's fine. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like that
Bye.
took a lot
Go
of
for it.
mental whatever, because when you're growing something, you want to constantly improve. You want to, make sure the quality of everybody is great at the same time. And you know what? Someone who expects to have the world handed to them for $195 a month, that's not the person we're looking for. So
Nope.
we started to realize that, because there was a time where we were, I wouldn't say chasing, but we were aggressive. We were just like, hey, do this, and we really wanted people to join, and we got them to join, and it blew up in our face, because it was like, all right, fine, you got me, but then they want everything.
Yeah.
And not to mention, it's extremely high maintenance situations where you're paying attention to one person when you have another 100 that you've got to really make sure are getting the best of you. And now it's just, I wouldn't call it lax. We're still gung ho and nuts, and Darren and I text each other all the time. But
Yeah.
there's very much a better mentality of letting go quicker. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I did like that person, but yeah, if they say no, they say no. Screw it. Who cares?
Yep. And it's
And
one of those
now I
things.
think we're in a great place where it's like the majority of the people, and it's never going to be everyone, but the majority of the people in the group understand that, if you're doing the work, if you're paying attention, if you're attending the meetings, if you're doing all that stuff, $195 a month is peanuts,
Absolutely.
compared to what your return could be. And sometimes that return is money, right? Clients, an actual ROI, but sometimes that return is something you came to the group for, which is, hey, I don't want to be alone in this journey, or hey, like, I really need support. I
Exactly.
want to grow. So there's a lot, like, it. There is that therapy element where it's like,
Yeah.
when you see a therapist,
Mhm.
most people who see therapists, their goal isn't to make more money. Their goal is to, like, get rid of a drug problem, or their goal is to be in a better mental place, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And it's very, very hard to put a number value on that. It's almost impossible to do that. But you know,
I also think that there's this huge, okay, so first of all, you can go and get your MBA, you can go to business school, you can go to coaching school, you can go to, but they don't actually teach you how to run a business or start a business. And sure, you want to Google it? Good luck. There's 800 million different ways to do it, and 800 different, like the bazillion different opinions on what you need to do first and how you need to do it. It's like, shortcut it and actually go talk to somebody. So that's kind of how that was my thing. So I mean, obviously I was able to afford it, but the other really cool thing, I think there's people in our group, and again, no names, right? But there's people in our group that definitely don't necessarily have the money, but you know what? You know what they have? They're going to figure out how to get the money because they think the group is at value. Those are the people that you want, because it's like, those are the cool people to help, right? They may not have it, but they want it so freaking bad that they are gonna, like, and that's not necessary, and that's not everybody, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not the core person in the community, but there's a few of them that are like that are just so awesome and so young and so, like, ready for it, that their perspectives are so cool and their questions are so awesome, and it's just fun having those people around. But that's
Yeah.
definitely not the
There's a
core, but
lot of
willing to work
there's a
for it.
ton of energy. That's
Yeah.
one thing I like, is that it's everybody does feed off of each other, and that was our goal from the start, is like, we're not letting this thing die. We're not going to let it fade. I think the meetings always keep it like that, right? Like, as long as
Yeah.
we're meeting every day, we're not going to let anybody fall. But at the same time, when we did that price hike, Darren and I were like, all right, we're in the discussion boards every day from now on.
Yeah.
Like, we're not skipping
Yeah.
a day. We're answering everybody. We're going to be there. And so that was a real turning point. It wasn't just the price hike. It was the commitment level from us too, right?
Showing up.
Where
Yeah.
we were like, because I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me in my head where I was like, is this really like my full time thing? Is this
It's
really what I'm doing?
not.
Like, am I really
Yeah.
like all in here? And
Yeah.
Darren, to his credit, has been saying I'm all in from like day one.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the second we got members, he's like, this is gonna work. This is gonna work. This is gonna work. And even me, even at like 100, I'm like, I don't know. Like, will it? Will it? And even today, I
Yin
still,
and yang. You guys are like yin and yang.
yeah. But even today, it's like, because yeah, a lot of it is dependent on like a LinkedIn, and you're using a massive social media platform to build relationships. But there are also another 3 or 4 huge social media platforms out there that you can build
Yeah.
relationships on. So for now, LinkedIn's top dog, and that's where I am, and that's what I use. But hey, referrals are coming in. It's growing in that way as well, and we'll see.
It's so cool. I'm so glad that I'm along for the journey, because it's gonna be really it's exciting. It's super every day. Every call is a new exciting adventure, because they're so funny, and we're not, I'm not going to reveal any secrets. You have to go check out Nat, and Nat's
Yeah,
gonna tell you
we
where
might as well record the Darren and Nat community chat.
you can go check out Nat. Nat's gonna tell you where to find him and Darren and the community, and he's going to give you all the deets, and then you go talk to him, and if you want the fun stuff, you have to go through him. But it's totally worth it.
Yeah, no, we do have a very good time, and I don't think it would be worthwhile if we weren't making fun of each other and
Oh man.
laughing.
Tell everybody where they can find you. Obviously on LinkedIn, go look for Nat
So
Berman.
LinkedIn, look for Nat Berman. I'm in there, but my website is natberman.com. That had a nice little makeover. My Brand Built. That's another website, which courtesy of Megan
mybrandbuild.com. You
Donnelly.
want to learn? Yep. You want to learn
She,
about the community? mybrandbuild.com,
yeah,
and you can shoot Nat a DM and ask him some more questions, or you can jump onto one of the demo calls. Go to mybrandbuild.com and check it out. We have monopolized enough of your time. That is a wrap for today. And guys, remember that technology is only good when it works, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.